Alright students, at this point you should have started the section on compound probability or compound events, and we're going to look at example 1. You just read what the sample space is and what a tree diagram is, and we're going to do example 1 from the book together. In example 1, it does not ask us to make a tree diagram. However, that is a very good method, and that's what I'm going to focus on for these examples. So we have to list all the ways that these three people can sit down. So what we're going to do is start with, and you need to write this down, are the letters A for Adrian, C for Carlos, and then G for Greg. So this is going to be the beginning of our diagram. And what this means is the first person who sits down could be Adrian. However, it also could be Carlos, or it could be Greg. So we're going to start with the situation where Adrian is the first person to sit down. So if Adrian is the first person to sit down, after that we have two possibilities for the second person. That could be Carlos, or it could be Greg, as you notice here. Of course, if we have Adrian first, then Carlos, then after Carlos we could have Greg. However, if it's Adrian first, then Greg, then after that it could be Carlos. So you can see our diagram is kind of branching out, and that's why it's called a tree diagram. However, if Carlos is the first person to sit down, then we could have Adrian next, or we could have Greg next. If Carlos is the first, Adrian is the second, that means that Greg would be the third person to sit down. However, if Carlos is first, Greg is second, then Adrian would be the third person to sit down. So taking a step back, you can see what the different options are now. If we go over here to the last part where Greg is the first person to sit down, we could have Adrian second or Carlos second. If we have Greg first, Adrian second, that means we could have Carlo third. And if we have Greg first, Carlos second, we could have Adrian third. So if you'll take a look, we have our completed tree diagram. All they really want us to do is to list the sample space, and the sample space would be all the possible outcomes. So let's think about what these outcomes mean. We could have Adrian, Carlos, and then Greg. So this whole branch right here really means this. ACG. If we go to this one, we have AGC. If we go here, CAG, and then CGA, GAC, and then GCA. So if you look at this bottom part right here, that is the entire sample space. In other words, those are all the possibilities for the different ways that they can sit down.